Hi, this is author K.F. Johnson, and this is part one of my interview for the Creative Corner about my books published on One Iron Woman Publishing. Hi, this is author K.F. Johnson, and my genre is romantic suspense. Romantic suspense is the genre that I write in, but oddly enough, I kind of fell into it. I never really had a genre in mind when I first started writing. Um, and I think my books kind of cross some of the genres. Like one of my books, What I Do for Love, was nominated for a Best Thriller Award. So they border on other genres. They all involve romance, but that secondary genre could be anything. Could be suspense, could be thriller, could be straight romance. It just depends. My background is I'm from Queens, New York originally. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I came here to go to Spelman College. Oddly enough, I was an art major at the time, drama minor. And by the end of that, I was a psychology major, graduated with a BA in psychology and a minor in English. I've always been writing. I started writing because I was on punishment a lot and I couldn't go outside and couldn't watch TV. And so the most entertainment that I was able to have was listen to the radio and read a book. And in doing so, I got interested in writing. And so I would write and draw and do a lot of other things. And so that was kind of how I fell into it. And in college, I was able to hone those skills by taking some screenwriting classes and having a few things published in the school papers. And afterwards, I went on to get my master's in business. And so even though writing was a hobby, when I first published, it was really just for my friends. I didn't have any expectations on it becoming an author or becoming some bestseller or anything. I was reaching a milestone in my age and wanted my friends to see it. And Amazon was the only way that I could think of to get it out there, and it took off. It was unexpected for me because obviously I wasn't marketing or anything. But it was a great feeling of validation that I had a talent. And then I put my business master's degree to work and started finding out ways to market and to brand myself. I have been writing, like I said, since I was a child, but I've been published since 2012, and that's when I put out my first book, Behind Closed Doors. Since then, I have published 5 other books, one of which is a compilation of the other 4 books 3 of the other 4 books that I put out, 3 of my very first books, Behind Closed Doors, Liar's Ball, and When I'm Bad, I'm Better. It's the first 4 chapters of each book, and that is An Unscrupulous Mind. What I Do for Love was my last book, the beginning of a series, and then most recently I dropped the sequel to When I'm Bad, I'm Better, which is When I'm Bad, I'm Better 2. And right now I'm working on my 6th book, which will be What I Do for Love 2. And after that, there will be no more sequels. Everything will be standalone. The reason why I've decided that I won't write other books that will require a sequel, at least not one that is hinging on a cliffhanger, is because, one, it's very challenging for me. I'm very critical of my own writing. I'm very cognizant of what readers may or may not think. You can't please everybody, but of course you want to. And so I find it very difficult because I'm all about making things make sense, and I want to put out my best work. But the downside of that is that I'm not a fast writer. Because I'm so critical, I'm constantly writing, rewriting, and I have a lot of other life situations I have to deal with. I'm married, I have another job, I have kids. So because it takes me so long to put them out, I feel like it's not really fair to readers to put out a book and then have them wait like a year, sometimes more, to put out a sequel, especially because I'm a reader myself. So I know how tiresome that could be, waiting on a book, and you might forget what happened in the first book. So I've just decided that after I put out this next sequel, that I'm either only going to write standalones or each book can stand on its own if I decide to write any books that are continuation. And since all of my books kind of touch on some of the other characters, I like to recycle characters and have them pop up in other books. So if you've read some of my books, you'll recognize characters from other books in them. I feel like that's the best way to continue it going forward. Most of my books have family drama because I think they're the most interesting. I think they're the most common form of drama. I think almost all people have some type of family drama going on, a disagreement with their mom. They don't like a brother. They have a half brother, a half sibling. Some people have infidelity. It's a lot of issues, and I think that to me, family drama is the most interesting. Even though most of my books do revolve around romantic relationships, there's always the importance of a sibling, a parent, or a cousin, or something like that in every book, because I think most people lean on family. When you're in a crisis, when you have drama, those are the people you turn to. So for me, those are the easiest characters for me to put into a book because I can relate, and I want other people to be able to relate. The reason I write is because it's fun for me. It's something that I love to do because I feel like I can expand on my imagination. And if you read some of my books, a lot of people will say I have a twisted imagination. But it's just fun for me. It's a way for me to escape. I've always been a creative person. When I was younger, I used to act. I used to do a lot of things, and I always enjoyed, characters and play. I used to use my Barbie dolls and make them like soap operas. I used to act out all my children episodes and stuff with my Barbies. So to me, it's just a fun way for me to put out the things that I think about in my imagination. And once readers started validating the fact that they thought that I had a talent, it made me feel like, okay, great. I'm glad that people like what I write. And so it made me want to write that much more. When I published originally, it was only for my friends and family really to be able to see. And, it was really a great feeling to know that a bunch of strangers that read my work really thought that it was good and were interested in seeing what happened next. Because my first book had a cliffhanger, not intentionally. It was just because I just didn't finish writing it. Like I didn't, I didn't think anyone would care because it was just my friends I thought I was publishing it for. But other readers were like, so what happened? What's going to happen? And I was like, wow, you really care? Like, what else is going to happen with these characters? And people started asking me, did I know people, or did I know these people that I was writing about? And that made me feel good, too, to think that the characters were written realistically enough that people thought they could be real people. So, a combination of all those things. And I've been published since 2012, so I've been learning. I'm self-published, but I now have my own publishing company, One Iron Woman Publishing. And so every year, I get a little more skilled and I learn a little more. And, I love this industry. Now I have my books in audiobook. Every year I've done a little more, and I'm hoping to expand that into television or plays or, just make another move every year. I think to be a published author that you do need a good level of self-confidence and a thick skin, because anytime you put anything out for public consumption and for people to have an opinion about, you better be ready for people not to like it. Like it doesn't, you could be a best-selling author. If you look at any best-selling author's book reviews, there's going to be some people who don't like that book. It doesn't matter if you're Stephen King, if you're Omar Tyree, if you're Carl Weber, Terry McMillan, or K.F. Johnson. There's always going to be people who don't like your work. For me, the goal is to make sure that more people like it than don't like it. So, I think that I've learned a lot in this process, because I didn't have any initial expectations in the beginning. It didn't matter to me about whether people liked it or not. I was just excited that anybody liked it. But once I started trying to brand myself and make a business out of it, then it became more important for me, which I think is why it maybe takes me a little longer to put out some books, because I'm a little more critical of what I do, and knowing that other people are, spending money and taking time to come see me. I love it when people come out to book events, leave reviews, send me, inbox messages, whatever. All those things really motivate me to write more and to do my best when I do write. When I started writing Behind Closed Doors, which was my first book, I didn't have an ending in mind. I think that's probably the problem with most of my books. I have great ideas for books and for plots, but I never really think out the ending. So it takes me a little longer because I constantly change what's going to happen. I'll have things happening all through the book, and then I'll decide that I don't like that, or that doesn't make as much sense as I would like it to. So, I've tried the outline. I have common sense. I know a lot of people do a book outline, and so they can outline their plot. But when I do that, that doesn't work either. I still end up changing it because other things will come to mind. So I really just go off what my initial plot is for those characters, and then I just let my imagination decide what's going to happen at the end. When I started writing, I didn't have a vision because I didn't anticipate becoming an author or a writer. Like I said, I was just writing as a hobby. So I didn't have any expectations of where I was going to go with that, or where my career was going to take me, because I just was trying to wrap up some loose ends at my age. I was turning 40 that year, and I was like, oh, I have a lot of unfinished stuff. And my then boyfriend, now husband, was actually the one who said, don't you have a book that you haven't finished writing? He was like, you should put it out. And that's kind of how that happened. So I fell into it. I just went into it blind, which apparently doesn't work for most people, because since I've been in the industry, a lot of people have asked me, how do you become self-published, and how do you get fans and things like that. And I was lucky, I think, because I went to Spelman. I had a lot of Spelman and Morehouse friends on my personal page, and so I think they helped spike some of those sales initially. And then just readers in general, possibly the name Behind Closed Doors, I think just got a lot of hits too, because for all I know, people thought it was another book. At the time, because I was so new, I didn't realize like 2 billion books probably are called Behind Closed Doors. I would have had a more unique name for my book. But looking back on it, although I make sure all my books are named something more unique now, that might have been part of the blessing as to why it became so popular initially, because a lot of people might have picked it up either thinking it was from an author that they already knew, or because they thought that it was a book they'd already heard of. So, in the hindsight, it was probably a good idea. Now that I've been published for, going on 6 years now? I think it is 6 years. August 2012 is when I published my first book. I would love my future to entail getting my books turned into a television movie, a Netflix movie, anything with the small or big screen, even a play. Like I just want to go to the next level with my books. The next level for me recently has been having my books turned into audiobook. That was a new venture for me, which has turned out to be a great one and opened me up to a larger audience. Since then, I've received more nominations for my books and as an author, which I think is probably because I have ventured out into audiobooks. And so I'm hoping, ultimately, I think what most authors would love is to be a household name, or a name that people recognize, at least when you mention their name and someone says, oh, I think I've read a book by them, or I've heard of them before. I think that's really my main goal, to be a successful author. To me, that would be a level of success, to be an author that's recognized and is able to make that my full-time career eventually. My sources of inspiration for writing are my imagination, as always. The ID Network. I love the ID Network. If you love anything about murder, like I'm a true crime buff. I love true crimes. And the ID Network is just my muse because I look at all these crazy people and some of the crazy things they do and how they kill people sometimes. Because if you've read any of my books, you know somebody's going to die in every book, and not by natural causes. So if someone was killed with a medication or something, I will Google that. I mean, I already know now if my husband dies of anything mysterious, I'm going to be arrested on the spot because my Google search is incriminating. Yeah, I think true crimes, I pay attention not just to the ID Network and Snapped and such, but I look at what really happens in the news and things that really happen in the world, because to me, the best books and the best movies are ones that you can see realistically happening. And for me, I like to have although romance is the main topic for most of my books, there's always a menacing factor. And to me, the most horrific sides of a movie or a book are things that you could think could possibly happen in real life. Those are the scariest things to me. So I do a lot of research. I Google a lot. I talk to people a lot. I've been consulting with my attorney friends for things with what I do for love too. Just because I'm a fan of realism. I feel like just because something is fiction doesn't mean it has to be far-fetched. Because if someone who's reading one of my books happens to be in that profession, maybe you're an attorney, maybe you're a doctor, you'll see discrepancies that may turn you off because you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You can't do that. This is a HIPAA violation. You can't do this in a hospital or, something like that. So I put a lot of effort into trying to make my storylines make sense and be as realistic as possible with a twist, or a twist of, psychosis from some of the characters.